Hopefully, good luck, everyone. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Crime Analytics Certificate info session for fall 2025. My name is Mashur Chaudhry, and I am the Manager of Recruitment and Sales for the Chang School. Now, before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the land on which Toronto Metropolitan University is built upon. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. I want to pay my respects to the Indigenous peoples, elders, and ancestors who stewarded and cared for nature and people who lived on the land where TMU is located today. At the university, we made a deep and long-lasting commitment to truth and reconciliation, and I invite you to learn more about this work online. Now, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's session. Your microphone is muted throughout the event so as not to disturb other attendees or the presenters. For the hearing impaired, we have automated captioning available, which you can access by activating it in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. You will have the opportunity to submit questions to today's presenters and guest speakers by typing your questions into the question box. And you may send in your questions anytime during the session. We will answer them towards the end. Now I'd like to introduce our guest speakers for today, Raymond Garrison, Academic Coordinator and Lecturer at the Chang School. And next we have Ian Williams, Director of Information Management at Toronto Police and Lecturer at the Chang School. And finally, we have Travis Johnston, Divisional Crime Analyst at Hamilton Police and a recent grad of the certificate. And we're really excited to have this amazing panel of speakers share their insights. But before we do that, we'll take a quick poll to just check the temperature of the room and see how everybody's doing. So we wanted to ask, what are your goals and motivations, right? What really motivated you to consider this certificate today? And, we have a few options that are on the screen. Career advancement being number one, career change, number two, number three is skill building for a current role, and then personal interest and others. So we'll leave that on for just a couple of seconds more, and then we will share the results. And after that, we'll have Raymond, our academic coordinator, and Ian Williams, our lecturer as well. Raymond is also a lecturer at the Chang School, and both of them will take us through the presentation. Okay, so here are the results. Looks like it's pretty even between career advancement, career change, and personal interest, with career change being the highest, personal interest after that. That's very interesting. We haven't had that before. And then career advancement. So without further ado, welcome Ian and Raymond.
Good afternoon, everybody. Next slide, please. So I'm going to start off by reviewing some quick facts about the Crime Analytics Certificate. First of all, the certificate is completely online, and as well, it involves 6 courses. 5 courses are required courses, and there's 1 elective, and you actually have a choice among 8 different courses for the elective. I'll say more about that later on. It takes approximately 12 to 16 months to complete the certificate if you want to do it within that time frame. What I mean by that is you have up to 4 years to complete the 6 courses. So that's 12 terms. But if you want to do it as fast as possible, it would be 12 to 16 months. That's because I give that range there because not every course is offered every term, but usually every course is offered once a year at least. So depending on where the courses fall and your availability to take the courses, 12 to 16 months is the time frame in which you could complete it. Or as I say, you could take all the way up to 4 years. Many people do because they fit it in around their schedule. Take a course this term, maybe not next term, then another one in the summer, however it fits your schedule. Now, the total cost of the course is $4,000 to $4,500, but you don't pay that all at once. What you do is pay per course. So when you enroll in a course, you pay for that course. So if you enroll in only one course, for example, in the fall 2025 term, you'll only pay for that course. If you enroll in two, you'll pay for the two. That's how it works with respect to paying for the certificate. Next slide, please. So backing it up a bit and talking about GIS in general, why learn GIS? Well, it's become increasingly important as a planning tool because everything is spatial. It's important to know not only what's happening out there, but also where it's happening and where it's happening relative to other things. So everything has a position and a position relative to other things. So for example, if we're looking at the makeup of the GTA, Toronto relative to Vaughan, relative to Durham, and so forth, everything is spatial and everything is relative in that sense. So what GIS does is it allows you to layer data on interactive maps. So you can get a visual impression of the interrelationship among various variables in a specific area. So I'll give you a really quick example. During the COVID-19 global pandemic that we just passed through a couple of years ago, one of the concerns was vaccination rates. And a GIS analyst mapped vaccination rates across the city of Toronto, correlated it sometimes with socioeconomic data as well, and the location of various vaccination facilities. And by having that data, you can look at it and say, okay, vaccination rates are low in this area, but there's no facility for vaccination there. Perhaps we should open one right away. Or you could say there is a facility there, vaccination rates are low, perhaps we should adjust the hours and make that particular center 24 hours for vaccinations, and hopefully that will lead to an increase in vaccination rates in the particular area. So lots of things can be done, even with something as simplistic as that. GIS is able to handle very large databases and multiple variables to understand correlations over space in a particular area. So GIS analysis does feed directly into decision-making processes and the development of policy options. And one of the things you'll get in this certificate is some analytical skills. So you're more than just producing GIS maps, you're analyzing it. And Ian will say more about that when I pass it over to Ian, the various types of skills that you'll develop throughout the certificate. So with GIS in general, you get a snapshot of what's out there relative to other things. And as well, you can look at it at different points in time. So you can analyze trends over time as well to know how things are changing, project forward and so forth. So it's a very, very powerful planning tool. Next slide, please. So some trends in crime analytics. There is a growing demand for analytics professionals in all industries. Within crime analytics, there's an emphasis on community safety and well-being over the last 10 or 15 years or so, and Ian will say more about that in a moment. Some of the professions you can look to be employed in once you've completed the certificate include crime analyst, intelligence analyst, fraud analysts, and many other supporting community safety and well-being roles. Our graduates find jobs in both government and private sectors, such as retail, banks, and so forth. So next slide, please. So I'm going to pass it over to Ian to discuss a little bit about what you will learn with us by taking this certificate. Ian?
Thanks, Raymond, and hi, everyone. I'll cover a few elements about what you're going to learn from us. Raymond covered a few key elements around GIS broadly and being able to use that tool set to visualize data, to be able to conduct analysis. And as you progress through the certificate, the emphasis will be increasingly on understanding and analyzing the data, the trends and the patterns, and trying to explain why this is happening, and to be able to bring that to decision makers to help make policy, operational, strategic decisions. And so a big part of this, of course, is understanding what a crime analyst role is and what the career paths related to that would look like. And it does vary. As Raymond mentioned, we see this role or this type of role showing up in quite a number of areas now. Traditionally, it was in a police agency having a crime analyst who did crime or intelligence analysis. Today, that's expanded quite extensively, and you would see this type of role showing up, again, as Raymond mentioned, in the financial institutions where we see fraud investigators, fraud analysts, we see anti-money laundering analysts, anti-money laundering investigators, and really fascinating work in that space. We're starting to see crime analyst roles in public transit. So the Toronto Transit Commission, for example, has crime analysts. Toronto Community Housing has crime analysts, and the provincial and federal agencies that have similar, although different mandates, have comparable roles as well. So it moves from municipal to provincial to federal in many ways. And so we see really, really interesting work in that space. We have really positioned the certificate around a broad perspective of community safety and well-being. So recognizing that crime analysts don't just analyze crime data, there's a whole spectrum of data that impacts community safety and well-being, which crime analysts actually work with a number of different partners in order to understand. Some of that would be public health, some of that is housing, some of that is other aspects of security or elements of well-being in communities. And really those partnerships become critical. And so the structure of the program actually is multidisciplinary. So not only are you building those technical skills, how to use these tools to conduct analysis, understanding how that plays a role in jobs in the field, but you're also getting critical perspectives from criminology, sociology, psychology, and geography, of course, centrally within this work. And I think that's one of the most notable aspects of the program, is that it is multidisciplinary. And because we bring in all of those different perspectives, you'll build on all of that work throughout the certificate. And it definitely does change your way of thinking about a lot of these elements. And so centrally, we do a lot of hands-on work with GIS data and analysis throughout the program. It's generally real data. Sometimes it's Canadian data, as much as we can use Canadian data. We also use data from the United States in many cases, but real data. And so solving real world problems, bringing that to bear for decision support. So really that's in a nutshell what you'll learn. I think we can move on to the next slide, and I'll piggyback on the data piece a little bit. So we do examine a lot of trends and pattern analysis, problem solving across many different issues, and as I mentioned, using real crime data. And most of the large cities across Canada now make real crime data available, and that's wherever possible what we use throughout the program. But we do augment that with some broader GIS skills, which might include American examples as well. But that's all real data as well. And so through that, what will be part of your portfolio is producing mapping applications, data visualization applications, and some of those are live online web-based apps. So you will literally have in your portfolio, after finishing not only each course, but the program in its entirety, you'll have a portfolio that you can share publicly with potential employers, with friends and family who are interested in what you're studying. You'll be able to show them literally what you're working on. And in many of those cases, it's fully interactive products that you're building, literally web-based tools. And so I think some really interesting work there. Our next slide, we'll talk a little bit about some of the skills, and just looking at really the development. We've positioned the certificate and the courses so that you're developing those relevant skills that are required in the job market. And you'll see today, if you've been looking at any job postings in this space, you'll see the skills and software requirements like ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS Online, QGIS, which you'll use centrally through the certificate. Those are all things that are required in the workplace. And employers across whatever industry, public sector, private sector, NGOs, they're looking for those skills and practical use of data. We do examine and do some practical work with data management. We look at a variety of digital spatial data, and very deliberately, we want you to be troubleshooting so that you can understand as practically as possible how the software works. What happens when I'm using a different type of data? What happens when that data is not perfect? How do I cleanse that data? How do I make it set up in a way that it can show up on the map? And a big piece of what you'll see through all of the classes is collaboration. So although, and Raymond will get into more details on this momentarily, the structure of how the classes work, although the classes are generally online and in a virtual environment, we do our best to make it collaborative and lab-based. So you're encouraged to connect with each other and to work through problems together, just like you would in a lab or in a workplace where you'd turn around and talk to a colleague who's sitting behind you and say, look, I'm running into this thing. Have you run through this before? Have you ever seen this type of message come up? And to collaborate through that. And the instructor's roles and the lecturer's roles are there to help guide you, but to encourage that collaboration, because one of the big elements that you come out of this program with is also a network. So the people that you're in these classes with, they become colleagues down the road, and that's a big networking opportunity, which you'll have. There are presentation skills because you're asked to present your findings in a number of different ways. So not only live in class, sharing your presentations and getting real-time feedback, we also ask that you record those in different ways: audio recordings, video recordings, recording screen captures as you're preparing a training document to share with others. Those presentation skills, of course, are critical, and in the workplace, they're required. So we do put a lot of emphasis on that. And we make all of the software available to you through a state-of-the-art virtual desktop. I think I'll do one more slide and then pass it back to Raymond and just some of the professional applications that we look at. So we are literally, all of the assignments that you'll have are practical, intended to solve real world problems, and you'll see the topics that we cover are absolutely real world problems from a community safety and well-being perspective. And it's not always from the how do we find the offender perspective. It's how do we contribute to and understand more thoroughly community safety and well-being issues. And sometimes those are policing related things, but they're not always policing related things. Sometimes you need other stakeholders and other partners to help play a role. And that's the perspective that we want to support and enable you to come out thinking more critically of as you complete the program. So as I mentioned, there is a lot of opportunity for collaboration and the networking, lots of opportunities for creative thinking. So the courses that you'll have and the assignments within them, they're designed to give you a framework of a task to complete, but the creativity in terms of what you produce, the applications you're developing, the maps that you make, there's a lot of creativity opportunity in that. And the analysis, as you're asked to explore problems more deeply, you have a lot of runway in terms of that. Lots of research, you can bring in your own interests, and you can create really some fascinating projects as a result. And of course, you have access to the TMU Career Center, and there's lots of opportunities that stem from that. Get lots of opportunities there. So I think I'll pass it back to Raymond and continue on with the program overview.
Thank you very much, Ian. So who should take this certificate? Basically, anyone who's looking to upgrade their skills or make a career change. I saw from the poll that many people are looking into making a career change. Any recent university graduates starting out in the GIS industry, and those new to Canada looking to build a new career. No prior experience with GIS or statistics is required for this certificate program. You just have to know how to use a computer, basically. And the courses are set up with a series of modules, particularly when we look at the first two courses, CODG 101 and 102, your skills and knowledge build incrementally and gradually. You'll complete a module, you'll do a little self-test, usually in the module, a small workshop or assignment, and you'll be firm on what you've learned there. Then you move on to the next one. And by the time you get to the end, you have already quite a sound knowledge base as you complete each course. So the learning is very gradual, okay? And no prior experience is necessary. And by completing the certificate, you'll have extensive practical experience in GIS mapping, data analysis, and decision support, working with real-world data, as Ian has said. You'll understand criminal justice, policing, and criminal behavior, and understand the role of crime analysts in evidence-based policing and the uses and misuses of data analysis. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I said when I was talking about the quick facts at the beginning, there are 6 courses in this certificate program, and it's designed to be completed around your schedule. As I said, you have up to 4 years, 12 terms to complete those 6 courses. So it's designed to be part-time, okay? And it's entirely online with a blend of synchronous and asynchronous components. The modules themselves are largely asynchronous, but there are touch points, as Ian said, for collaboration with other students in the course, with the instructor, and so forth. And those will be the timings of those will be made to you well in advance, and usually attendance in those is optional. So you could complete it entirely asynchronously if you'd like. If you're unsure if GIS is for you, you can always try out a couple of courses. The CODG 101 and CODG 102, you can take them in either any order or together, and they will give you a good grounding of GIS to begin with, and then carry on with the certificate program from there. But the rule in the Chang School is that you must enroll in the certificate before you take your 4th course. So you can take up to 3 courses without actually being in the certificate program and then decide to enroll. I would encourage you to enroll in the certificate program right off the bat. Yeah, but if you're unsure, just try out the 101 or 102 and see how it goes. I am sure you'll enjoy it. Next slide, please. So I'm going to shift it back to Ian to talk about the capstone course. One of the great and relatively unique qualities of this certificate program is we have 2 courses that comprise a capstone for the certificate that draw upon the knowledge that you have obtained in the previous courses, the previous 4 courses in the certificate program. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Ian, to talk a little bit about CODC 910 and CODC 911.
Thanks, Raymond. So for these 2 courses, really they're designed to be the culmination of the work you've done to date through the certificate. And they're the wrap-up courses. And so they bring really your spatial methods. You've learned a number of different aspects, and you've had practical assignments in GIS, broad ranging, including some public safety related ones and community safety and well-being related GIS applications. 910 is very focused on bringing crime data and spatial methods together with you. And you work on a number of really interesting assignments in that space. A lot of presentation content, you're preparing briefing notes, really the types of products that you'd be asked to do in the workplace. And you get very specifically trained in those. And as I mentioned before, your portfolio of work as a result of that now will include these types of tools and your ability to explain to potential employers how you can produce them, how you have in the past, and you'll actually be able to demonstrate, here's a briefing note I produced, here's presentations on some of these, and the analysis that you've done in that regard. And then finally, 910, as Raymond mentioned, really that's the capstone. And this is the project-based course, which should bring everything that you've done together. We work together to pick a topic that's achievable, feasible, and within the scope of the program. And then you spend the semester working on that project. And so a lot of what we recommend is as you begin the certificate and you start even with your very first courses, that you're doing that with the big project at the end in mind. So you should be starting to think about, okay, what am I interested in? What types of aspects of data are available? And what is my final project going to include by the end of the semester or by the end of the certificate? And in doing that, you'll have a scope that's pretty well defined. You'll have already thought about some data. You'll be practicing analytical skills and producing reports throughout the program up until this point. And it should really help position you strongly for a very successful project at the end. And there's no shortage of issues in community safety and well-being that can be included. We've had a very wide range from human trafficking to auto theft to gun violence to persons in crisis and mental health, and shifting again the perspectives of who's involved with these and how do we help create community safety and well-being improvements when we're taking all of those wide array of challenges into consideration. And so lots of fascinating work in this space. It's ever evolving, and the projects, they keep coming up as what I consider innovative, new, always fresh takes. And I can always guarantee the projects in this capstone, irrespective of when they occur, there will be articles in the media that week about whatever your topic is. And so there's lots of very timely, very relevant work that you'll be undertaking. And so I'll pause there and pass it back to Raymond.
Thank you, Ian. So program highlights, again, just very quickly as a summary, taught online, asynchronous and synchronous, series of small hands-on activities and assignments, as well as a major capstone course. Our instructors, like Ian, are highly motivated, experienced industry professionals and academic leaders in GIS who will be with you every step of the way. There's opportunities for collaboration. You'll learn presentation skills. Basically, we offer practical training and theoretical education together. And there is an award that is given each year, the Community Safety and Wellbeing Spatial Analytics Leaders Award, which was created by Ian some time ago, which you can be eligible for. Ian, you can say a few words about that?
I certainly can. This is an award which we created again to recognize students who are achieving really excellent products, getting excellent grades, and demonstrate a lot of future leadership potential. And so really designed to help students support financially through the program and subsequent to the program as well. And so we see, again, a lot of value in this. Certainly the students who've received this award in the past have gone on to be very successful in a series of careers. And I think we're in the 5th, maybe going on the 6th year of that award. So looking forward to that continuing and probably even evolving as we look forward as well.
Okay, next slide, please. So very briefly, there are other career options once you have the basics in GIS, and I'll talk about these in greater detail next week. Next Friday, there is a presentation information session on the Applied Digital Geography and GIS certificate. Those include urban planning and land use planning, infrastructure, utility assessment and planning, retail location analysis, environmental management, marketing, social services, health services, transportation, and banking and finance. I'm just moving a little quicker now because we want to leave some time for Q&A, and I'll pass it back to Mashur.
Thank you so much, Raymond and Ian, for that amazing overview. Love how we have such a multi-sectoral approach and how hands-on we are. all the real world scenarios, really exciting stuff. And we make it really convenient for our students by having access to the state-of-the-art technology that's available. So now it's my pleasure to introduce one of our previous students of the certificate and a divisional crime analyst at Hamilton Police, Travis Johnston. Travis will share a little bit about his experience and speak to us about his role a little bit. Welcome, Travis.
Thank you. So I'm a recent graduate of the program. I'm currently a divisional crime analyst with Hamilton Police. I've been in my role for a little bit over a year. In my role, I review and analyze crime trends in Division 3 in Hamilton. Hamilton has 3 total divisions, soon to be 4. So in my current role, I communicate with other 2 divisional analysts to determine citywide crime trends. I provide investigative support to various units within the service, including High Enforcement Action Team, which are plainclothes officers, and our CIB, or Criminal Investigation Branch. Some of the work I've produced in the past involves cell tower data, tracker data, heat maps for auto theft and recovery locations, and social networking charts. I also liaise with outside agencies to determine any crime trends that occur across divisional boundaries. Within our service, there are various analysts in addition to divisional analysts. There's also intel analysts, which focus on organized crime groups. There's unit-specific analysts, including homicide, break and enter, auto theft, robbery, and as well as strategic analysts would look at operations and efficiency. So, for example, Hamilton is looking at realigning our boundaries, as there has been a large amount of growth in the city over the past 20 years, but no change to those boundaries. So just looking at efficiencies that can be made there, and the use of GIS is essential in that analysis. For my experience in the course, the Crime Analytics Certificate program really provides a great hands-on and real-world experience. As has been discussed, you use publicly available data. Toronto Police data was pretty instrumental when I was doing the program, using that. Personally, Hamilton Police is kind of lacking on our publicly available data, so I think that is something that we're trying to work on. But the work you complete in this program will be directly transferable into the workforce. Great experience in this program in cleaning data. So information that you receive, especially cell tower data and any location-based data, is rarely received in any usable or legible format. So the program gives key skills to format data that is essential to conduct any analysis that you would. So personally, I applied to Hamilton Police in early 2023. I was unsuccessful in getting this role and began looking at options for gaining skills and knowledge in this field, and found the crime analytics program through TMU. So I enrolled in the certificate program. The education around the technical software, primarily ArcGIS, was hugely beneficial. This is something that I use daily in my job. So about a year after I was unsuccessful with Hamilton, I applied in 2024 and got the job that I am in currently. So I feel that the education that I gained through this certificate was instrumental in my success in entering the field of crime analytics. As I've noted, the tools and techniques I use daily are the ones that I have been trained on through this program. And there is a steep learning curve, and it's not necessarily intuitive, but as has been discussed by Raymond, it's really taught in a step-by-step method. I remember first opening up ArcGIS and really struggling with just the basic tools and functions of that program, but being really surprised and proud of where you end up at the end of that program. it's really remarkable and great to see. Also, there's great networking opportunities. So you're in a program of like-minded individuals. While the program is largely focused on crime analysis, the tools and methods can be widely applied to a variety of analyst roles. And just to provide an overview of the role in the sector, it's definitely a growing field. There's constantly crime analyst positions being posted for police services in the GTA and Ontario-wide. Hamilton is a small team currently, but budget asks are made yearly, and the team is always increasing. Police services are really seeing the benefit of data-led policing and the importance of analytics, and continue to add and expand in these positions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Travis, for sharing that overview and sharing all the exciting stuff that you do. So yeah, now we can open our floor to some Q&A. Please put in your questions that you want into the question box in the control panel. So the first question that we have is, what kind of career opportunities or networking connections can students expect after completing the certificate?
I think
Yeah, go ahead.
Ian has covered that in his portion of the presentation quite well. Do you want to elaborate a little more?
Yeah,
Ian?
I can speak to that as well. Yeah, so during the class, certainly, or the program, certainly, you will have many opportunities to network with fellow students. You also will get access to presenters who come in from the field, so different professionals from different organizations who will come and speak to the class on what their experiences have been, professionals like Travis, as one example, who come and spend time in the classroom. And so there's a networking opportunity with that. Subsequently, TMU has a pretty robust alumni program. So you will get access to a lot of events, a lot of communication platforms, to be able to share experiences or network with different colleagues, both within the program as well as outside of the program as well. And of course, as you move forward, you'll still know all of the people who you've been, not only your cohort in completing the certificate, but because students are at different places in completing the certificate, you'll get to expand your network through that as well.
Awesome, thank you. And I know you mentioned this at length during the presentation. I guess sometimes people join in a little bit late and have that question. It's a very common one. So the next one is from Sahil. Thank you for your question, Sahil. We heard about the option of enrolling in courses first versus registering for the program. What are the key differences between these two? Can one register for the program and try to get a course and still decide not to move forward?
Yes, you can. That's why I would encourage you to register for the program right off the bat. As I say, you have 4 years to complete it. You could take 1 or 2 courses to start and then take some time and think about whether or not you want to continue. You can even take a year because you have 4 years to complete 6 courses. If you decide not to continue, you can withdraw from the program. That's fine. But you'll still have the 2 courses that you've taken already. So I usually encourage people to just enroll in the program and proceed forward that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Raymond. Next question is from Jack, and Jack is asking, someone who is a CFE, certified fraud examiner, how can someone who's a CFE utilize this certificate to enhance employability? He also mentions that I understand the cert is mostly Ontario and perhaps US-based driven data, anything for Quebec, or it doesn't matter as long as we're capable of understanding the process and data to complete the work.
I can touch on that and then see if anyone's got further thoughts. But certainly, I think the fraud examiner role, in addition to the crime analytics certificate, adds employability opportunities that would show up in police agencies as well as financial institutions or insurance companies as well. I think that's a pretty logical path. And also I'm seeing now crime analyst jobs with like the securities commissions, for example. So both provincial and federal bodies there. And I think if you were to look online, you wouldn't have to look very hard to find a recent crime analyst posting for the Ontario Securities Commission as just one example. And I expect that would be a very logical application of that certification as well as with this certificate. For your second question, the data perspective, it's more about the analysis methods and recognizing the different types of data as opposed to particular jurisdictions. So doing a data analysis in New York City, for example, the methods would apply by and large just as well within a Canadian city, irrespective of which province. There would be some nuances, of course, but we cover the nuances that you would consider, and we help you build out the problem-solving skills to apply those irrespective of the jurisdiction, really.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for touching on that, Ian. Next one is what data analytics or visualization tools, example, I know we mentioned ArcGIS a little bit as well, are taught in the program. Are there any other tools?
Those are the core ones, and it doesn't preclude use of like Excel to do data visualizations. It doesn't preclude use of Power BI or Tableau. There's some online versions which are quite accessible in that regard. And Esri, whether it's ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Pro, has a lot of data visualization capabilities. And that is what we emphasize, is those in particular, but none of that prevents including other tools as well, some of the more accessible ones specifically.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure. It sounds like there's a lot of cool tools that are being used during the course, so really exciting there. Next question is, what is the typical entry-level salary for graduates starting out in roles like this?
It varies to some extent. I would say the lowest generally that I would see would be 60 to 70,000 Canadian dollars. But that being said, if I look at, again, a couple of recent postings, that Ontario Securities Commission position, that was an entry-level role that started at $90,000 a year. There was also a Peel Regional position crime analyst job posted that started at 80,000 Canadian dollars a year. So just some rough and recent comparables.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, next question is regarding technical background or math background to succeed. So what kind of preparation is most helpful? I don't know who wants to take that. Maybe Raymond, you can touch on it, and then Travis, you can maybe talk a little bit about your experience while taking the certificate.
You really don't need very enhanced technical skills. You'll acquire those throughout the certificate in a very gradual way, as I said earlier, and Travis also said as well. When Travis opened up the program, it was a bit daunting at first, but then became almost second nature now in his position, and also by the time he finished his certificate. So there is really no strong technical requirement or technical set of skills that you need. You just need to know how to use your computer, of course. But other than that, the instructors will walk you through what you need to know. I'll pass it to Travis to talk about his experience.
Yeah, I would just echo that sentiment. I don't have a math background. My BA and master's are kind of sociology based. Some minor statistics courses, but those are over a decade ago. And technical background, yeah, I didn't have. This is why I took the program, to gain that technical experience. So again, no technical experience and left with strong technical understanding.
Perfect. Thank you. So we are almost at time. We have one more question. I'd recommend you to put it in now. But yeah, the last question is, beyond GIS, does the program cover areas like evidence-based policing, digital forensics, or are there any AI applications?
I can do that one really quickly. Evidence-based policing is essentially the central aspect of what this program covers. Again, using data to help inform decisions. And so I'd say that's centrally delivered. And digital forensics, a little bit less so. That's kind of a different, though related field. And AI applications like TMU provides Gemini to students. So that's one aspect. And generally, we encourage exploring AI in assisting with students' work, not doing the work, but assisting in elements of the work. And there are some ways in which that's really helpful. But AI can't quite yet do all of the analysis that we would want. However, it can help validate statistics. It can help validate some of your research. It can augment some of your sources or help you find comparisons across different insights. So a number of different ways we can build that in.
Perfect. Thank you so much for answering that really comprehensively. Now, while I do my closing remarks, we just have one final poll for everybody. We just want to get your feedback on how we did and if we were able to answer all of your questions. And I'll take this moment to thank all of our guest speakers and everybody attending our online session. If you're interested in more information about the certificate presented today, please visit our website at continuing.torontomu.ca. And if you have any other questions, and if your question maybe was not answered entirely, please contact me via email at mash.chaudhry@torontomu.ca. You'll also receive a follow-up email with the recorded session and a survey within 24 to 48 hours. And on behalf of the Shanks School and all of our presenters today, thank you for joining and have a great rest of your day.